The Wall Street Journal is reporting that longtime Trump Organization chief financial officer Alan Weisselberg is going to be hit with some criminal charges. So that's supposed to happen tomorrow. According to the journal sources, the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, that's Cy Vance, is expected to charge the Trump Organization and its chief financial officer with tax-related crimes this week in an investigation that could eventually implicate Trump, but we don't know. So it would be very interesting to see them actually go after Trump himself as opposed to the organization, or to the CFO himself. So let me give you more details on this. For months, the Manhattan DA Office of New York and the State Attorney General's Office, Letitia James, have been investigating whether Mr. Weisselberg and other employees illegally avoided paying taxes and perks, things like cars, apartments, private school tuition that they received from the Trump Organization. So, yeah, they gave him a bunch of this stuff and they didn't pay taxes on it. All right, well, that seems like it's fairly straightforward that you're not supposed to do that, that you are supposed to pay your fair share. Now, the Manhattan DA's office has also been investigating the Trump Organization for 3 years and has received extensive cooperation from Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen, of course, is somebody that, I'll be honest, I've called him a snake before. I still believe he is a snake. I know animals are innocent, but as much as I don't like Michael Cohen, he has been right about things. And he has given a lot of insight into Trump. And so I think that's interesting that he's saying that, it's not just going to be the CFO, but this will eventually take down Trump himself. Again, from somebody who was in the inner circle and not just a coffee boy. Okay. To see him say that, no, this is going to happen, that seems significant to me. But anyway, now that fixer, of course, pled guilty to making illegal hush money payments to Stormy Daniels. We knew all that. Now, the organization is alleged to have inflated their assets to secure loans, deflated assets, claimed losses when it came to valuing them for taxes, in order to not only avoid paying taxes, but of course to secure pretty big refunds from the government. One of those refunds was about $73 million. And so understand there are two different investigations. And there was one, of course, into Stormy Daniels, and there was one, of course, into the taxes. And those two have kind of just combined into a gigantic, think about, I think it was Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones, and that giant rolling ball trap. That's kind of what's going on with the Trump Organization. They're not going to be able to get out of the way of that. But we'll see. Again, we'll see. There were so many different instances of Trump to Trump Organization, of course, that there's been so many instances where Trump or the organization have not been charged with anything. So they have been completely missed everything. And so we'll see. Did the New York AG already stated that they will not be charged? We'll see. I mean, as far as the organization is concerned, and CFO and the CFO. And so that's what we're looking for right now is the CFO. And I think there's a reason for that. The CFO, Weisselberg, they want him to flip on Trump. And so we'll see if that happens. But again, there was an investigation by the New York Times that looked into Trump's tax returns, right? And they found that he paid nothing in federal taxes for the majority of years reviewed, and a total of $750 during his first 2 years as president. I paid more in taxes. I paid more in taxes. I'm sure most of you paid more in taxes than Donald Trump. Not only that, but at the same time, while he was avoiding U.S. taxes, he was actually paying taxes in other countries because, well, their tax laws make it so that rich people actually do have to pay more of their fair share than they do in America. He also received tens of millions of dollars from foreign sources. He also received 300, I'm sorry, not received. He actually owes now about $300 million in loans over the next several years that need to get paid back. He vastly overstated his charitable giving. And of course, any charitable giving is pretty much a tax write-off. That's why a lot of these rich people do that. It's not that they care about charity. No, they care about the tax write-offs. And then, of course, the tax write-offs give you good PR. Oh, look, I what are you talking about? I donated to a charity. I'm not a horrible person. No, you're still a horrible person who got a tax write-off for giving to charity. Ridiculous. He also has been involved in a year-long battle with the IRS over that $73 million refund, as I mentioned, which may be owed back to the federal government. And he appeared to have worked with his daughter, Ivanka, to make up fake consulting fees and then use those as tax write-offs. Again, I pretty much have covered all of that. He also apparently mischaracterized his 200-acre family retreat in upstate New York, the tax filings in order to write off millions of dollars more. And so if anything knows about the details of all of these tax shenanigans, it's the chief financial officer, Weisselberg. And again, I think that a lot of this has to do with trying to pressure Weisselberg in order to flip over on Donald Trump. So the thinking is you hit him with a bunch of charges and then offer him a plea deal for his cooperation. I'm just saying that's what I hear. That's what I see. Okay. Now, again, as I mentioned, Cohen, as well as former Trump Organization employees, they said that prosecuting Trump would almost certainly require the cooperation of Weisselberg. So the question is whether Weisselberg will go to prison for Donald Trump and not cooperate. That is certainly a possibility. And that would, of course, keep someone like Donald Trump out of prison, which, again, could very well be what will happen. So I don't know what's going to happen. Now, the question is, why are we even talking about this? Why is this even important? Donald Trump's not president anymore, you say. Get off your Trump derangement syndrome for a second here. Okay, well, first, I don't think that people should be getting away with not paying their taxes. Rich people. Donald Trump is allegedly rich. I see him and his organization, his company, no different than any of the corporations like Amazon, for example, that pay nothing in taxes and yet get massive amounts of profit. Why let Trump go? Why not go after the Trump organization for not paying their fair share? That doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't. Rich people shouldn't be getting away with not paying their taxes. I'm not going to ignore it because he's no longer president. I think that's dangerous. And I think ignoring things that former presidents did wrong. And I'm going to make a probably ridiculous comparison, but stick with me, okay? George W. Bush is a war criminal. Barack Obama's a war criminal for using like drones. And I know people are really uncomfortable when you say that. Donald Trump was also a war criminal. Pretty much every president that we've had has been a war criminal. Now, what does that have to do with this? Not a lot. I'll be honest with you. But really, it's more about the tendency for people to overlook the crimes of past presidents. And so the reason that, I talk about war crimes is because that's what they all have in common, right? Donald Trump also has additional crimes, financial crimes, which they are much more likely to go after than they would war crimes, because unfortunately we are the United States empire. And so it is important to talk about this to avoid the rehabilitation of Donald Trump. Again, we have the rehabilitation of war criminals all the time. George W. Bush, for example, Barack Obama didn't need to be rehabilitated. He's still incredibly popular. But Donald Trump, you really want to see Donald Trump rehabilitated? I don't. I don't want to see any of them rehabilitated. So if we can hit him with this, with anything, well, then I see that maybe, would prevent that kind of rehabilitation to see him go to prison for tax fraud, for at least defrauding the American people. And that's ultimately what tax fraud is. We end up paying more so that he doesn't have to. And so, yeah, it may be a pretty poor comparison, and a pretty poor point that I've made in a strange way. But to me, it kind of makes sense. So I think that past presidents need to be held accountable for, whatever crime that they do. Crime is crime, right? And that, again, means war crimes. And I know that will never happen. But at least with this, we can start somewhere. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.